Welcome to Gone But Not Forgotten 2, a nostalgic look back at 5 Dells area attractions, including the Wonder Spot, Biblical Gardens, Familyland, Riverview Park, and Xanadu. And this presentation is number 2 because we did number 1 last year in 2021. If you missed the original Gone But Not Forgotten, you can find it on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Sauk County Historical Society, and you will find it there along with many other videos on local history. We would appreciate it if you, when you are there, if you would hit subscribe for us. And before we get started with Gone But Not Forgotten 2, we'd like to thank the people on the screen, including the Village of Lake Delton for their generous support, Dells Country Historical Society for information, Vector and Ink. Owner Dan Marsick has been a great help with Dells travel guidebooks back to the 1970s, and Jake Beard, Kay Mackesy, Bill Schutte, John Campbell, and Google Earth for information. Thank you to you all. So let's start off with the Wonder Spot. This was an attraction in the Dells for over 50 years in Lake Delton proper. And where was it exactly? It was across from modern day Sorrento's. So there is a picture of Sorrento's on the strip, and we are going to go backwards a few images. And many of us remember Sorrento's as Fisher's Supper Club. And here's an even earlier picture of Fisher's. The building dates back to the 1930s and was originally Massey's Fish House. And this picture shows the fish house there on the strip with the Dells, one of the Dells entrance archways. This was put up by the Lake Delton Development Corporation in order to get people to stop and consider purchasing land around Lake Delton. And if we look at this aerial view of the same area, you can see the fish house, or later Fisher's, there on the right, the archway right in the middle, and off to the left, a little square building that was the office for the Lake Delton Development Corporation. And at the bottom of the image, you can see a billboard overhead entrance, and I believe this probably is the entrance to the Wonder Spot across from the fish house. And here's another similar view looking a little different angle, and right across the street from the fish house, we zoom in, you can see again this billboard entrance between 2 other buildings, one of them probably a restaurant. And here's a later image showing the entrance to the Wonder Spot between those 2 buildings. The one on the right there being later Shank's restaurant, and the one on the left just barely in the image, Our Place Restaurant. And here's the aerial view of the same area from a few years ago. Sorrento's there on the left. Part of that building was Fisher's Supper Club. Across the street, Our Place Restaurant. Shank's was demolished, and the Wonder Spot appeared in this area in general, back behind those buildings. Now, the Wonder Spot consisted of a cabin built onto the side of a steep hillside. The cabin was built perpendicular to the ground, not level or plumb. And it was this that gave visitors who were accustomed to flat floors and vertical walls the optical illusion that the natural laws of gravity were suspended. Wonder Spot opened around 1948. It was produced by Louis and Lillian Dauterman of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Louis Dauterman was born about 1886 and was a traveling salesman for a flour firm in 1930. And he worked for General Mills Company at one point as well. And he and his wife Lillian had 2 children, and when they retired, they purchased land along a steep ravine in Lake Delton and near the banks of Dell Creek, where they built the Wonder Spot. And they lived in Fond du Lac during the winter and operated the Wonder Spot at Delton during the summer. This sign welcomed people to the Wonder Spot, and it was eventually donated to the State Historical Society, so they still own it. And it talks about how the area was discovered June 16th, 1948, and it was around that time that the Wonder Spot opened. So basically, during the season, guides would take you through the cabin and perform different actions that seem to show the lapse of gravity and other forces, like balls rolling uphill, liquids defying gravity. And of course, these were all just products of the cabin being built, not level or plumb. But the mind-bending illusions gave people the appearance that the laws of physics had been suspended. And all kinds of different scenes and photo ops were to be had during this tour. And as time went on, the people in the pictures were of a different era, as the Wonder Spot lasted for several decades. Louis Dauterman died in 1960, and his wife and widow Lillian ran the attraction after that. She died in 1966. There were other owners after that. A Mrs. Haller is listed as the owner in the 1965 directory. And in 1988, Jim and Barb Mattei sold the Wonder Spot to its last owner, William Carney of Tomah. And after Carney took over the Wonder Spot, he had new advertising made. It always appeared in the Dell's guidebooks. And attendance peaked during the mid-1990s at around 50,000 visitors per summer. And given the relative low cost of the site and staff, this was probably one of the most profitable attractions in the Dells. In later years, the Wonder Spot, of course, was a relatively minor attraction in the Dells area, but it served a purpose as a contrast to the more expensive water parks, restaurants, and other performances in the Dells. Carney explained that it was not difficult to promote because even though no one comes to the Dells to see the Wonder Spot, he said, everyone who does come here sees it. They all come here with their grandmas and grandpas who perhaps had experienced it earlier. The demise of the Wonder Spot came in 2006 when the village of Lake Delton was, along with the state, carrying out a Highway 12 improvement project, and they needed to put a road through where the Wonder Spot was, so Carney decided it was time to close the attraction, and he sold to the village of Lake Delton. So here are a couple of last images of the Wonder Spot from probably early 2007 before it was demolished. This picture showing the cabin from the bottom of the hill where it looks, fairly normal. And this picture more from the top where you can see that it was built perpendicular to the hillside, which gave it those illusions. So again, the Wonder Spot was on the strip in Lake Delton near Dell Creek. This aerial image from 1992 shows approximately where it was. on the hillside. And if we fast forward, this image from 2017 shows about where it used to be and the road that was put through by the village. And even then, this was replaced. By the current parking lot and terracing of a new La Quinta Inn and Suites. So basically where the Wonder Spot was is now buried and underground. But again, the Wonder Spot was one of the Del's longest running attractions, running for well over 50 years, and now exists in the memory of probably hundreds of thousands of people that visited it over the years. All right, the next attraction we want to talk to you about is Biblical Gardens. This was not too far away from the Wonder Spot, turning the corner in Delton and going north on the Strip. And this was located across from Parsons Indian Trading Post. This was a 1930s era attraction and gift shop. So here's the aerial view from 1992 showing Parsons on the Strip. And across and back off the Strip, the ravine where Biblical Gardens was located. And just like the Wonder Spot, Biblical Gardens took advantage of the natural topography in the area. This time, of course, a beautiful ravine on Spring Brook. So Biblical Gardens was the creation of Eva Newsom. She lived in Dixon, Illinois with her husband and began molding and casting the statues for it in 1960. And each figure was modeled from people she knew. The statues were modeled in clay and then ultimately cast in cement and painted. They were 2/3 scale, life size, and the cement statues could end up weighing as much as 700 pounds apiece, and it could take up to 6 men to carry them down into the ravine for their placement. Eva Newsom designed the layout of Biblical Gardens to use the ravine to its full potential, and the attraction opened in 1961. Statues that were added after 1961 were also modeled in clay, but then cast in fiberglass, which made them much lighter for transport. So the entrance to Biblical Gardens led through a gift shop and small museum area before sending you outside for a lovely walk through the ravine. And there were 15 vignettes, starting with the birth of Christ. And each one was set in the ravine to take advantage of the natural, beautiful setting. So we have Jesus at 12 in the temple. And down in the bottom of the ravine, in the creek itself, Jesus calling his first disciples. We also had Jesus and the children, each scene, of course, painted to be as lifelike as possible. And Jesus getting baptized by John the Baptist, again taking advantage of the water setting there at the bottom of the ravine. The Last Supper with a small indication of a building. This was the betrayal in the Garden of Gethsemane. The trial of Jesus with Pontius Pilate. Christ bearing the cross. The crucifixion scene. Mary at the tomb. And here's another picture of that with Eva's daughter, Pat Hosley, who modeled for this particular scene. And final scene, the Ascension of Christ. Every winter, Eva would spend touching up the statues for the next season. And the photographs that we just saw were taken by John Trumbull, Dell's area photographer, who made postcards of all of them. Biblical Gardens reached its peak in the 1970s. The Newsomes retired in 1980, and Biblical Gardens lasted until 1997 when the property was sold. And again, this is the approximate location of Biblical Gardens. The land was developed for condominiums. Here's an image from 2005 with the first two condominium buildings being built. Followed by a more current view with all the condo buildings now being constructed. And just a view of Canyon Creek condominiums there along the ravine that once held Biblical Gardens. The ravine is still a lovely spot that can be used by the condo owners and their guests. Now, what happened to the statues? It was Eva Newsome's wish that they remain together, and they were purchased in 1997 by the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. They paid $5,000 for them. Their plans were to have them placed at Camp Phillip, their summer Christian retreat center near Wautoma, Wisconsin. As of yet, they have not been installed. Eva Newsome is still alive at the age of 103. All right, the next attraction we want to talk about is Riverview Park. This was located on the hill just south of the Lower Dells boat landing. It covered several acres, about 35 acres of land, so it was a very large attraction. And it was on land that was, again, owned by the Riverview Boat Company, and back in the 1920s and 30s, they ran an earlier version of Riverview, Riverview Free Campgrounds. You could stay there in the woods for free if you brought your own equipment. And this was just something the boat company did to encourage attendance on their boat lines. Riverview Park, as we knew it, started in 1973. There may have been something there as early as 1968, a few random amusements, but officially the park opened in 1973. Riverview Boat Company owned the land with Pete Helland representing the boat company. It first appears in the October 1974 phone book as Riverview Amusement Park. Ron Farmer supplied all of the iron rides, including the biggest all-steel roller coaster in Wisconsin at the time. Other amusement rides included such classics as the Tilt-A-Whirl, a Ferris wheel, the Galaxy roller coaster, and 3 other smaller roller coasters as well. Turk and Jack Waterman were also involved, with Turk having the lease for the games and Jack having the lease for the arcades. Food buildings, however, were owned by Riverview Boat Company. Candy Kitchen, or Goody Goody Gumdrop as we know it today, was added by 1981. This was built for Pete Helen's wife, Babette, and it is still operating today and is one of the oldest continuously operating stores on the Strip. By the early 1980s, the park was promoting a number of You Drive 'em rides, and this included bumper cars, antique cars on a track, and racing cars, for which Riverview became quite well known. In the early 1980s, Riverview got into the water park business, as many other attractions did, trying to take advantage of this new development in the Dells that started in the late 70s with the first water slides. So by 1983, this ad appeared in the Dells Travel Guide. And Riverview entered the water park business with several body slides made out of fiberglass, as well as a tube slide. And the tube slide was really one of the best in the Dells, with waterfalls cascading between each pool as you made your way down the hill. This map from around 1983 shows the park at its height at that point, with the water park primarily on the north end or to the left, the carnival rides more in the middle, and You Drive 'em rides more on the south end of the park. It was around Labor Day of 1983 when one of the most dramatic incidents happened at Riverview. And that was when it was discovered that bombs had been planted in the park. 2 of them were found in the fun house in the back of the park and 3 elsewhere. They were each made of gunpowder, gasoline, a kitchen timer, and a motorcycle battery. And John Campbell, who was manager of the park and also a teacher at the time, recounts the story that he was teaching and was summoned to help find the bombs, as he had all the keys to the buildings and knew the layout of the park the best. And all the bombs were found and ultimately defused, but it was a very dramatic time at the park. In 1984, 2 more slides were added, apparently 265 feet long, as Riverview tried to keep up with other water parks. In 1985, a lazy river was added. The 1986 ad in the Dells Travel Guide promoted a new slick track, dune buggy track, and a new wilderness trail ride. The park also really catered to very small children, with a lot of offerings for them, including kiddie-sized bumper boats, cart rides, racing boats. And here you can see a number of those offerings for very small children. Riverview ultimately added a children's play area known as the beach. And by 1988, it was competing with other parks and offering a $9.95 ride and slide all-day pass, or just use of the water park for $4.95. And this view again shows the extent of the park, and off to the extreme right in the bottom corner, a Ferris wheel was added, which was the largest in the Dells. And there's the view of that Ferris wheel, which was at Riverview for many years. Another addition to the water park area included 1993 with the addition of the Wild Island play area. And here's a picture of it with the original water slides in the background. This 1998 aerial of the park shows how big it was with the You Drive 'em tracks there at the bottom. Also, there were softball fields off to the right behind the park, bordering the woods. And at the top of the picture, you can see the water park area with a large white object, which was a wave pool that Riverview added. And one of the last additions to the water park was the Hurricane water slide, which was new in 2000. In 2008, the water park advertised its 35-year anniversary. And at this point, it was little known that the park would not last for many more seasons. 2009 was actually the last season for the park, and the Dells Travel Guide at that point was promoting old school rides that were either added to or already at the park. And by 2010, the park was closed. This aerial shot shows it during that year when it was not open. Fast forwarding a few years, the property has now started to become Timbavati Wildlife Park. This image from 2020 shows it all as Timbavati Wildlife Park, with the driving paths being torn out for habitat area, and some of the other areas of the old park, such as the water park area, being repurposed for viewing of animals. Here's a shot of the entrance today, and behind the main entrance there you can see the tall structure with the blue and white canopy. That is still part of the water slide platforms. There are still a few buildings that are recognizable from Riverview Park, including some of the gift shops, and of course the Goody Goody Gumdrop candy store. This is now one of the oldest running stores on the Strip. It's well over 40 years old. All right, the next attraction we want to talk about is Familyland. Familyland first appears in the October 1973 phone book, so assuming that it started that year. Familyland was located at the lowest part of the Strip, down in a valley. It covered this area originally, where Mount Olympus, part of Mount Olympus, is today, the indoor water park being the roof, the building with the big green roof. And this is where the latest sensation is in the Dells in 2022. The new Medusa slide wheel, the first rotating water slide in America. And this view shows that new attraction, as well as the addition to the indoor water park and the driveway in front of it or next to it. And this was the original driveway to Familyland. So if we go back to the original picture of Familyland, this is approximately the same location. So there is the driveway right behind the Familyland sign, and you can see pretty much most of the extent of the original Familyland. It was comprised of carnival rides, more permanently parked there. So on the right side we have the rocket ship roller coaster, which sent you straight up on your back in a little cart, and then when you came out the top, you wound around the rocket to get to the bottom. That is when it was working. Sometimes you got stuck inside the rocket going straight up. Behind the rocket, you can see the umbrella ride, a circular ride that raised as you rode on it, and you rode around in little carts covered by those umbrellas. To the left of the sign, of course, the Ferris wheel. This sat in the middle of a pond in the park, and off to the left of the Ferris wheel, the Trabant, which looks like a roulette wheel. Behind that, the structure is the fun house, and behind the Ferris wheel to the right, the building with the white roof, was the bumper cars, which was one of the longest running attractions of early Familyland that stuck around. And here is a picture of those bumper cars. And again, as Familyland grew and eventually morphed into Mount Olympus, this was one of the structures that remained the longest. Familyland also got into water rides as well, first with bumper boats and racing boats, but also one of the earliest water slides in the Dells, a single body slide towards the front of the park. And here's a view of the bumper boats, which were built in the pond that was where the Ferris wheel was originally located, and there's that single water slide in the back right along the strip. And a view of the racing boats with the funhouse off to the left in the background, and behind it all the long roof of Playday Motel with the single water slide there to the right. Familyland made big headlines in 1983 when it added the first wave pool to the Dells. And they didn't go small on this. This was a huge wave pool, still is there, with 750 gallons of water. It was called the Tidal Wave, and just to the west of it as well, they built several water slides and a tube slide on the hill. And there's a little better picture of those early water slides and the tube slide all emptying into the same pool at the bottom. New in 1985 was the opening of the Fountain of Youth play area. This was somewhat simple by today's standards, but this was quite a new thing, a zero-depth pool with some activities for smaller children, and you can see it was built near the wave pool. By 1986, Familyland was again competing with other water parks and theme parks, offering a $9.95 pay one price unlimited use pass. And by 1988, Familyland had acquired Storybook Gardens further down on the strip and was offering that as part of its package of offerings. In 1989, 3 more water slides had been added, and Familyland also got into the business of live performance, offering a Beach Bears show. And in 1991, they also offered a Simpsons live show daily, 4 times a day. In 1997, Treasure Island Resort opened, a large hotel with small indoor water park across the main driveway from the original Familyland park, and there you can see it on the left at the top with the giant wave pool in the middle and the original water slides there in the back of the park. It had the resort had a small indoor water area known as Buccaneer Bay. This was very successful, and by 1999, Familyland built one of the first large indoor water parks in the area known as the Bay of Dreams. And this was connected by an overhead walkway that crossed that original driveway and connected Treasure Island Resort with this new indoor water park. Bay of Dreams included several attractions inside. It was about 50,000 acres undercover, or I'm sorry, 50,000 square feet. It included a couple of tube slides, 51 feet high, one of them 51 feet high and another 35 feet high. There was also a lazy river inside, 400 feet long. There were two giant hot tubs, and here you see one of them in the corner with a waterfall and the lazy river gliding by next to it. And there was an elaborate kiddie play area with a giant pirate ship. This map from that time period shows the extent of Familyland with the Bay of Dreams water park, indoor water park on the right, which kind of was in the original Familyland area, the wave pool to the west, and the water slides up on the hill, with Treasure Island Resort there at the bottom. And again, the Bay of Dreams water park sat largely where the original Familyland was, and just to the north of it, the bumper car building lasted for many years as an original attraction, and when the bumper cars were removed, the structure was kept as a picnic shelter for many years and disappeared only relatively recently. In the fall of 2004, the merger of Familyland, Treasure Island Resort, and Mount Olympus was announced, with the Mattei family that developed Familyland and Nick Lascaris, who owned Mount Olympus, joining forces. And this would combine 4 different areas into one giant park. So that was the outdoor theme park of Mount Olympus, including roller coasters and go-kart rides, as well as other outdoor rides. The indoor water park of Familyland, the outdoor water park of Familyland, as well as Mount Olympus, and a new indoor theme park with indoor dry rides. And this map shows the new Mount Olympus water and theme park with the original Familyland on the left side. Playday Motel was purchased that separated the two and demolished, with new rides taking its place. And you can see the full extent of Mount Olympus. This 1992 aerial shot shows the original Familyland with the water park offerings there to the left in the back of the park. You can still see Playday Motel next to Familyland to the north, and then Mount Olympus at the very top of the image, starting out with the go-kart tracks. This image from 2005 shows the Mount Olympus Familyland merger shortly after it happened, and the park would obviously continue to grow from that point. And here's an image from 2020 showing Mount Olympus just before the most recent edition of the new Medusa slide wheel. And that brings us back to that latest edition, Medusa slide wheel, the first rotating water slide in the United States, and the addition to the original Bay of Dreams water park doubled in size now there along the strip, right where Familyland used to be. The last attraction we want to talk about today is Xanadu, the foam house of tomorrow that was built near the bridge to the Upper Dells. And here's an aerial shot of that area, the Lower Dells at the bottom left of the image, and towards the middle right, the bridge to Uptown Dells. And this is where Xanadu was built. Xanadu was the brainchild of a man named Bob Masters, who was an early pioneer building homes of rigid insulation. Before conceiving the Xanadu at the Dells, Bob Masters designed and created inflatable balloons to be used in the construction of this type of house, and he built his first balloon-constructed house in 1969 during a 3-day snowstorm, and he was successful. And he became convinced that these dome-shaped homes could work for others, so he decided to create a series of show homes in the United States. So Masters partnered with Tom Gussel of the Dells area and Ken Forsyth to build a foam house in the Dells. It was Gussel apparently that chose the name Xanadu for the home, referencing the summer capital of Juan in the Samuel Taylor Coleridge poem Kubla Khan. Xanadu in the Dells was designed by architect Stuart Gordon and constructed by Masters in 78 or 79. It first opened in 79. It was 4,000 square feet in area and featured a geodesic greenhouse addition, and 100,000 people visited the house during its first season. And here's the ad from the 1979 Dells guidebook. The house was still being finished, so they didn't have a picture of it. So this is a different foam house from elsewhere in the country used for this first ad. After building the Xanadu house in the Dells, Gussel and Masters built 2 other foam houses for exhibition. This one was in Kissimmee, Florida, near Epcot Center, right after it opened. And a third one was built in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. The building method was the same for all 3. After the balloon was inflated, spray foam was sprayed on the outside of the balloon, and once that hardened, the balloon could be deflated and reused to build another dome next to the previous one. After the domes were built, connections could be made by using cutting openings and using wire to spray more foam for other features. And once the foam had cured, it was 5 or 6 inches thick. And you could do anything you want, cut windows and doors in places and foam them into place. The interior of the structures were eventually sprayed with a 3/4 inch coating of fireproof material that also provided a smooth, clean finish for the walls and ceilings, and the exterior was given a coat of white elastomeric paint as the final touch. Tom Gussel said, "It's like turning over a styrofoam cup and living in it." This 1992 aerial shot shows Xanadu in its original location, and this gives you the best sense of this number of circles that were domes that were placed next to each other to create the entire structure. So let's take a tour of Xanadu. This was the view from the path leading to the front entrance, and after you went inside, you quickly entered the largest dome of the entire house. And that was the great room area. This featured a large tree structure seeming to support the roof, although it was really there to disguise a built-in ventilation system. But it was a nice touch, kind of this concept of nature in Xanadu, and the tree touched the ceiling, and then on the ceiling surface itself, you can see how clumps of leaves were modeled to help complete the effect. There was a small pond in the great room as well at the base of the tree. And wrapping around the tree and going up was a series of what were known as lily pads. These were small landings on the way up towards the top. And here you can see the pond in the great room, as well as a view into the dining room beyond. So after ascending the lily pad walkway, you would come out to an exterior walkway which would lead to the rest of the house. Again, this was a show home, so it was kind of laid out for tours specifically, so you didn't have to backtrack or get stuck in any room. The master bedroom included the famous champagne bed. This was a circular bed with just on a single pedestal. It also rotated and was really quite unique for its time, of course, with all of the built-in technology like a TV with satellite reception. Nearby was the well-appointed master bath and spa area. This included Kohler fixtures. Near the back of the house was a child's play area, which included the Swiss cheese playroom. There was a number of tunnels and even a carpeted slide inside. And all kinds of places for children to have fun, including a cubbyhole area that had a built-in TV. The tallest part of Xanadu included this kind of conical structure that kind of looked like a finger. Inside, this was called the Infinity Room. It was a dark space that had an infinity mirror installed near the top, so it looked like it stretched on forever. The tour ended up back in the kitchen area, which included, again, all of the best technology of the day, including a MagnaWave magnetic induction range and also a microwave, which was quite new for the time period. And next to the kitchen was the geodesic dome, greenhouse type area that was a small eating space. The formal dining room was connected to the kitchen and the great room and included a sunken area for the table, and you can see there it was also covered with a mirror. The house was completely computer controlled with an Apple IIe computer. The Wonder Spot closed in 1994. Attendance was slowing down, and it was decided to redevelop the area for something with more attraction. So the following year, the Timber Falls log flume ride and miniature golf was built. Later, a roller coaster was also added to this area. But even all of this is gone now. And the area is once again an empty lot covered in grass. So that ended Xanadu, the foam house of tomorrow, a great attraction in the Dells that wasn't around for too very long, but lives in the memory of many thousands of people that visited it. If you're interested in more pictures of historic Dells, Lake Delton area, please check out this Facebook group labeled Lake Delton, Wisconsin Dells Photos History. There you can search for just about any attraction, restaurant or motel in the Dells, and also leave some comments if you have some memories. This is where we get a lot of information about some of these attractions. I'd also like to invite you to become a member of the Sauk County Historical Society. We are a member-based organization, and membership support is our largest supportive income. You can visit us at saukcountyhistory.org and become a member there. Also, lots of pictures on our website and lots of other information. You can also scan the QR code on the far right for membership. If you'd like to go directly to our YouTube channel, you can scan that QR code. And off to the left, we have 2 QR codes that where you can get our free app for your Android or Apple-based phone. So thank you for attending Gone But Not Forgotten 2. And again, you can find the original Gone But Not Forgotten, which covers 4 other Lost Dells area attractions, on our YouTube channel.